Yo, 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 everybody. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of You Already Know, the What Now podcast with, you already know, your two guys, Spencer and Zach, on the DoloCast action. Sub Zach.
Doloing it up. What up, boo boo?
What's up, man? All right. Tell our people, our squad, our crew, our tribe, our homies, our friends, our beloved listeners. Tell them what we're talking about today.
Yeah. Squat. Had to sit. So today I was at the gym, had some squats on the Hard to Kill program, feeling the nice pump in the quads, and I remembered back in the day, back in like high school when I first started lifting, you would just hear the most random myths and random things. But when you're young, you don't know any better, and some dude that is bigger and stronger than you tells you to, then you probably, if you're like me, you believed it, and didn't really look into it much. And so from like, I don't know, maybe sophomore year of high school until like my first physiology class or like exercise physiology class in undergrad, I believed that on days that you hit legs, specifically squats, that you should finish with some form of bicep curl or whatever upper body muscle you wanted to grow the most, which for most high school boys was your biceps. Because allegedly back in the day, I was told that when you do legs or when you do heavy squats, it produces more growth hormone throughout your body. And so you want that growth hormone to go to your biceps. So you would do biceps after. And so there was a squad of us in high school that would, we would hit biceps after. We would do squats. We would do like a leg day, and then biceps was like our split. So like it'd be like back and bi, chest and tris, squats and biceps, and then go from there. So that was just a strange myth. I'm curious, Spencer, if there was anything in Louisiana that was talked about.
Oh, dude, you were a true brotato chip.
Oh yeah, I got plenty more too. So,
dude, well, my experience is a little bit different because when I was in high school, I didn't have to work out because I was an absolute physical specimen of an athlete. I'm just kidding, but nah, dude. Honestly, I didn't really get into fitness and working out until college, where I was like legitimately like working out, and really until I hit college, and I realized I was a physical specimen, but in the opposite way that I wanted to be. And so I started CrossFit, and that was really like my first, like it was my first gym membership. It was my first gym experience in general, other than like the university rec. And then I realized, like, when I was working out in a college, I just had no idea what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I was an exercise science major when I was in undergrad is because the athletic training program got moved from a 4-year degree to a 5-year degree. And I didn't want to have to... Everyone started out in exercise science and you have to apply for the athletic training program. And I didn't want to have to take the extra year when I knew I wanted to go to chiropractic school. So I was just in exercise science because it wasn't nursing, and I didn't want to take biology. I've always known that I wanted to be a chiropractor, and so I never, and then working out like in middle school and in high school, I remember this one time that like I feel like everybody laughed at me in 7th grade because I couldn't bench press the 15-pound dumbbells, and that was it. Like I was like the weakest one in the gym, and that's why I never benched until now. And because like I felt bad about it, so I was actually like really insecure in the gym for like a while, for like a really long time.
Dang.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever actually talked about that, but yeah, I didn't really like get into fitness until CrossFit in undergrad, really. And yeah, so I mean, I don't really have any of those brotato facts, but well, I really don't have any of those.
Count your blessings, because I got enough for the both of us, and then probably one more person.
But yeah, I mean, no, I really that really wasn't my experience. I like, dude, I like. But the thing that really got me into fitness is because our team chiropractor, there was this guy who was helping out with the sports med program. He had just graduated from chiropractic school, and he was really cool. And my back used to hurt a lot when I would play football, and he helped me out with some back pain. And then he also taught me how to lift a little bit. And then our strength and conditioning guy that came for just a very brief moment. His name was Zach Voss. He
He's got a
was
sick first name.
Yeah, I know. He was a CrossFit athlete. And so all of my learning and all of my movement knowledge that I know at all comes from the CrossFit space. So I never was a back and buys kind of guy. Like I never did I did like when people were like a push pull leg split, I was like, I have no idea what that is. Like somebody had to explain that to me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We just ran in high school. I'm now reaping the consequences of the programming that my high school, that our 65-year-old head football coach put together. It's just basically like 5-3-1, which is a concept created by Jim Wendler way back in the day, which is like great for beginners. But it's a 4-week long program, and we did that just on repeat all the time. And it was, you'd go in and bench one day, you would squat the next day, power clean, and then hex bar. So we'd work out 4 days a week. And we were never taught the importance of your posterior chain. So it wasn't, again,
all push.
Yeah, all push. So again, it wasn't until like I started taking strength and conditioning classes in college that I learned the importance of your posterior chain. And I'm still, again, reaping the consequences of that misinformation, because I'm very anterior chain dominant, blessed with very broad and big chest, but gets my shoulders into trouble as I am undergoing physical therapy for some bicipital tendonitis that just likes to hang around. So yeah, plenty of potato chip knowledge up in this brain. So
yeah, dude, whenever as you keep saying that, I don't know if I ever walked into the high school weight room and there was a workout on the board. Like I just knew, like
we just had a workout board that it never changed.
I don't know if we even had that. Like
that's crazy.
All I remember is to get on the wall. It was like the 1,000-pound club. That's all I remember. And
that's good.
That was it. And I was like, well, I can't even lift 15-pound dumbbells, so 1,000 pounds could be real hard. And yeah, I didn't know anything about working out, and so I was like, man, this makes no sense now. And I was like, well, no wonder I was like not really strong in high school. When I would work out with our kicker, and I was playing offensive line, and all we did was tricep kickbacks in the mirror, and I was just like, all right, let's work it out.
Hey,
and but it's good for my adjusting speed. So
hey, that's what matters.
I mean, where we're going with this, everybody, is
if you're still listening.
Yeah, if you're still with us, where we're going with this is there's a lot of things that you just get exposed to in the business realm, especially in terms of chiropractic, and people just saying like, oh yeah, you should do this, or you should do that, or you should do this and that. And we just blindly follow at the beginning, like what this stuff, and take it as gospel, not knowing if it works for us or if it's credible or if it's actually smart for us to do. And so this is where we're kind of going with this.
Yep.
So
since you had no gym bro myths that you didn't know were myths for a long time, what's your first thing that comes to mind when you think of like something you were told going into business that you've since learned is a bunch of BS?
Oh, dude, that it's going to be really expensive to get going. That's a big limiting belief, is that it's going to cost a lot of money to start up. Because I started with almost nothing.
Yeah.
And then 2, it's going to take a long time to quote get get off your feet, like to get things going. Like once I get there type mile, like it's going to take a long time doing that. That also is not the case. What's another one, dude? Like I feel like those are like two really big like startup limiting beliefs. So it's like it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of money. Oh, another one is like you need experience to start your own business. Like you should, I should associate. And there's a lot of reasons you should associate. But if you know for sure that you want to open your business, I don't think that you have to go and quote like, oh, I'm going to work for 5 years, get some experience, and then I'm going to open up. Because when you're working somewhere, you're not running the business. So you're still getting no experience. Like maybe, yeah, you're getting clinical
Yep.
experience, but like if your dream is to open your own business, like you're not going to be getting experience running your own business as working in somebody else's business. Like you don't get that,
Right. Right.
So those are a couple just off the dome. Another one too is like that I feel like is a big myth is like you have to post on social media every day. Like I don't think that like that's a big thing. Like
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions that like people are gonna say like, oh, I'm gonna build my business through Instagram, and like you totally can. I mean, there are people that do it like that's what Strat did. And there's like a bunch of other people like who have built their businesses through Instagram, but I don't think that you have to build your Instagram, build
Yeah.
your practice through your Instagram.
I think it's something I think of like Hannah and Morgan over at Alpha and Omega. Like a lot of their practices come from their Instagram, but that's also like where a lot of their time goes to and went to is like developing their branding, their messaging, and things like that to speak to their ideal clientele. And I think it's like a good kind of like starting point to dive into is social media, because I think we both feel similarly, but in different facets. Where it's like just because it works, I think that's like another myth is like, oh, well, I want my practice to look like these people, so let me do everything they're doing. It's like that doesn't necessarily equate to success. And I think with social media, you can see a post go viral or get tons of likes. But one thing that Travis Stewart exposed me to is like, is it getting likes from like, is it getting likes from other chiropractors and students, or is it getting likes from people in your community, right? And I think that's a really important metric to track, because not necessarily a post going viral or getting tons of likes is a good thing if it's just getting likes from other chiropractors. Like you're just speaking into a void.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, yeah, I mean, there's so much we could talk about in this, but I mean, I think the biggest thing is like if you're in school or you're in practice or you're just starting up, or really at any point in time, if you see somebody that you know cracking backs on your Instagram, that doesn't mean that they're successful. Just because they show up the most in your feed, and just because they show up the most in your algorithm, because this is the big thing now, is like in the social media algorithm, it can pull um like bits of content, like a reel or a post or something like that, from months before. Like there's some posts that I'll like and I'll be like, man, like I didn't see this. And then I'll go and I'll look at the posted date and it's like 8 weeks before.
Yeah.
It's like just now coming to my algorithm. And so it's like social media is a way different beast than it used to be at this point in time. Um, and so, I mean, I don't think that just because you see people all over social media doesn't mean that you're successful. It just means that you like and engage with their stuff more. And that's the whole point. It's a
Right.
marketing machine now. It's not social media used to be a like timeline of activities and stuff that you could post. Now it's an attention machine. It's an attention garden. It just farms attention. And whereas before it was like, hey, I'm going to post here to commemorate this, or I'm going to post here to like save this memory and like let people know about these kind of things. And I think now, yeah, social media is more of it's an attention garden is what it is.
For sure.
You're farming attention.
No, I think it's a really good point, the way the algorithm has shifted a ton. And I think too, and this isn't from like we missed out. And there's still people growing their business from social media, but it's like organic posting on social media, especially when you first start out, you're just putting that into a void. Like you're just getting your 200, 300 people to view it. And so those organic posts don't go nearly as far as they used to, at least from my experience.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, so like what's the biggest myth of social media that you feel like is not applicable to you?
Viral posts mean new patients?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing. Like that's a huge thing. Is like, all right, so our market is Argyle. Argyle, there's 5,000 people here, right?
Yeah.
And so if I get 20,000 likes on a post, where are they coming from? They're gonna be like, there's more than that, right? Like that's more than the people in my town that I serve.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's chiropractors everywhere. If I have 5,000 people in my town, I could not serve all 5,000 people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no point in me trying to have 20, 50, 100,000 social media followers if I'm just trying to grow my brick and mortar in Argyle. Now, there's a ton of other leverage that you can get from that many followers, but to build your brick and mortar, I don't think that just because somebody has, 20,000, 50,000 Instagram followers means that new patients are flooding to their doors to try to get into their practice because they saw them dance to the latest reel sound, like I don't think.
Right.
So I mean, I don't think that is necessarily a thing that you have to do,
Yeah. Yep.
Like just because you hit legs, just because you post a lot on social media, just because you have growth hormone in your body because of legs, doesn't mean it's going to go to your biceps. Doesn't mean that it's going to go into your new patient count, right?
Look at these things.
Hey, I mean, look, girls get girls, and we're both married, so it says something.
There's truth in that.
But yeah, I mean, so
I think what's funny about, not to go back to it too much, but that was like the only time I'd hit biceps. I'd do like a couple curls, and so like I'd be like, my biceps aren't growing.
That's so funny.
Anyways. I think that's
no, I think that's totally relevant though, actually though.
Yeah.
Like I think there's so many people that are like, oh, the only time I post is when I need new patients. And I'm posting. And I post every single day. I do a get ready with me for my office clinic, and I put on my Lulu pants whenever I go into the office, and then I have another one where I take my shoes off when I go into the office, and I burn the Palo Santo, and I all that stuff. And they're like, oh, I have no new patients. It's like, okay, well, just because you're doing the thing doesn't mean that it's going to yield X result. And I mean, we're harping on social media a lot, but that goes for anything. Just because you're buying newspaper ads does not mean that it's going to work.
That was going to be the first myth that I was going to mention.
Yeah, just because no, buy your magazine ads. Buy your magazine ads. You have to buy a magazine ad.
It is a rite of passage.
Rite of passage. You have to spend at least $6,000 on a magazine ad. You have to be locked in for a minimum of 12 months.
12 months, maybe 18 if you're
18. Yeah, I mean, if you're like me, you do it for 18 months.
Yeah. Especially to get that half a page ad, a little bit cheaper.
Quarter page.
Yeah.
Cheapest ad they have, longest term they have, because you're in it for the long haul.
But their readership is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Don't worry, that's going to fill your practice.
But like, I mean, that's another thing too, right? Is like, okay, just because you're spending dollars on marketing and advertising doesn't mean that you're going to get new patients. That's the thing. You have to, all of these things that we're talking about, social media, magazine ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, T-ball sponsorships, banner at the football stadium, radio ads, flyers, mailers, all of that stuff, that's what's called marketing, right? And all of those different things, every different thing that I mentioned just now, that's called a channel. That's called a marketing channel. So like if your business has a podcast, that's called a marketing channel. If you are running newspaper ads, that's a marketing channel. Your social media is a marketing channel. Your word of mouth is a marketing channel. Your BNI group is a marketing channel. All of those things, right? And so if I have a billion different channels, but I'm not pouring a lot of things into them, right? So imagine like I have 1 gallon of water and I have 1 cup. I can fill that cup up a bunch of times, right? If I have 1 gallon of water and I have 1,000 cups, right? I'm going to have to put a little bit of water in each one of the cups, and none of them are ever going to get full. And so like, that's been my approach to marketing in these acquisition channels is I'm going to pour all that I have into 1 cup until it's overflowing. And then when it's overflowing so much that I can't handle it anymore, then I'm going to go and I'm going to add another channel. Right.
Yep.
And so that's how we've kind of gone on to our marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Any other myths that come to mind? Maybe not social media related.
I don't know. What are yours, dude? What are yours?
I mean, the newspaper was like the biggest one. That was like the first one that came to mind, just because it's a rite of passage. I think some. I mean, one maybe. I don't know if it's a myth, but just kind of misconception I had was just because I've done like my report once or twice doesn't mean I have my report of findings down, or like whatever process, my day one process, day two process, phone call. I think it's just so like we harp on it a lot, but just like the training behind that, and how misconceived I was that once I taught my CA how to do it once doesn't mean that they got it down forever. And same thing for me. Like once I go through my report once doesn't mean I got it down forever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing. Like, just because you are right. I mean, dude, it goes back to the gym, dude. Like, I mean, just because this one guy is really big or really fit because he does this exercise program or anything like that, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And I mean, I think that's the same in our businesses. Like, I mean, I think we're a really good example. Both of our businesses do really well, but we do totally different stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And we serve different clientele, right? And so, I mean, our practices, yeah, like we're both cash. We do the insight scans. We have a day one, day two process. We only adjust. We don't offer any other services outside of the adjustment. And so, like, those are similarities. And, but I mean, like, we're both football players. We both play on the same team. We both wear the same size cleats, like, whatever. Doesn't mean that training for us is going to be the same. And I think that's a big misconception that I see a lot of young students get into is they get nurtured by these practice management groups throughout school, and they come out thinking like, well, this is the only way, and it works for the guy 2 hours away, and it works for the guy that taught the seminar, and it works for my brother's cousin's friend who has a friend who is in this practice group, and it works for them, and it works for them, and all that. And just because screenings work for Zach does not mean that screenings are going to work for me. Just because Google ads work for me does not mean they're going to work for Zach. Hopefully they do. But
just had my Google ads called right before this one.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think that's a big thing, right? I mean, some doctors work really well off of the whole 1 minute adjustment philosophy. That does not fly in our office, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's a bunch of things. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that's a big one, right? Is like if you're spending, like I was told, like if you spend more than 3 minutes with a patient, then you're wasting time. And Steph and I actually talked about this when we had her on like a year ago, but I was just like, okay, especially when you first start out, even if you're seeing like 20 a day, and maybe not when you first start out, because 20 a day might seem like a lot. But even when you're seeing 20 a day, there's still so much time on the schedule.
Yep.
Right. So you can still connect with those people. And I just thought it was weird to like rush someone through like the first couple months being open just to like stick to the 3 minutes adjusting. Like the adjustment itself, yeah, it probably took 3 minutes. But like us conversating and like it's hard to kick someone out when there's no one else coming into the office, right? But then number two, it's like, well, these people value me enough that they're coming in as soon as I open my doors. I think it'd be pretty good to like get to know them, pour into them, share with them what I know, and just get to know them as a person. And I think that's like a big reason why almost like 100% of our patients that started within the first 2 months are still with us today. It's because we were able to build that connection. And I know that's something Andy Frisella talks a lot about. Like when he started his supplement stores, is they'd have 1 or 2 people come in, but he got to know them like super, super well. And then they slowly started to spread the word. And then he eventually grew his supplement store. I don't agree with everything Andy says, because he'll tell you got to struggle for 10 years before you make any money. But in that regard, I think that's something that can definitely be mistaken as a younger doc.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that Andy Frisella's definition of struggle is that you don't have 20 cars. So, I mean, like, just to his standard, he's not struggling now. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, like, yeah, I think that's a huge myth. Just like, yeah, like, that people just like want to get in and out. People don't want you to waste their time. And there's a difference
That's
between
yes,
there's a difference between connecting with people and wasting their time.
yes,
Time is the most valuable thing because you cannot buy more of it, yet we are always spending it,
yep,
right? As you listening to this podcast, right? We're not trying to waste your time by talking about our gym experience,
hmm
right? That gives you context into setting up this thing, but we would never put out an episode that is just like, oh, I do this lift, I do that lift,
yeah,
unless you guys want that, right? Because then you're saying, hey, that's not wasting my time.
hmm
But the biggest thing is that people just don't want you to waste their time. Do not just because when you waste people's time, when you don't respect their time, you're telling them that you don't respect their life or them,
hmm
right? And
and
so
I
if you're
think
just yapping on and on and on about the weather and about sports and you're talking
mhm,
about fantasy football or all of those kind of things, like you're wasting their time, right?
yeah, I
It's
think
not what they're there for.
I think too, and I don't want to like speak poorly, but I just had a very interesting experience yesterday at my physical therapist office. So they have like 4 or 5 practitioners. Um, Physical therapy, you're with a patient for an hour, right? Um, and in this particular office, it's like really hard to reschedule the next day or that
Hmm.
same week. And I don't really have like the most open schedule, right? Like I'm not working a 9 to 5 desk job where I can call out for an hour and come back.
Dip. Yeah.
Um, so I can really only go during my lunches if I don't have meetings. Um, it's like I showed up yesterday at 1 o'clock. I have my team meeting at 2, so I got to be out of there by like 1:55 to make it back to the office. And practitioner got behind with another patient from talking for too long. And I think this is where kind of that concept comes from. And we didn't have the chance to like sit down and start working until 1:15. We got to like 1:50, and I was like, hey, I gotta, like I told her before we started, hey, I gotta leave by like 1:50, 1:55 at the latest, and then go from there. Um, but we're rushed through our entire session, and this is like $195 a session. Like it's not cheap, right? And I don't mind paying that for an hour long, um, especially when you factor in like what a chiropractor can make in an hour when you're seeing 2 people every 10 minutes. Um, but it was just like very frustrating because I value my time so much to like be 15 minutes late, only get 30, 45 minutes and still be billed the same, knowing that I couldn't just reschedule it for tomorrow. And so I think that's something I've learned because I want to see people that are C-suite executives, high performers, like professional people. And I think that's something they value about our office is they can typically call if they're an established patient, make an appointment same day. Might not be the time they're looking for, but we can typically get them in. And if they have to reschedule, it's not a big deal, right? Like this office, they wouldn't let me reschedule on a Sunday because one, I couldn't reach them. So for my Monday appointment, I had to reschedule on a Friday. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Um, but that was just like an experience I had. And to go back to the point of spending too much time with a patient, you got to start to learn as the schedule starts to fill up. Like, okay, now I need to not talk about everything under the sun with this one particular patient.
Yeah, that's like a big thing that I've like learned, and I am always like consciously working on is because I like to connect and I like to talk to people and I like to make those connections. But I have to be conscious of when am I giving enough information to like finish the thought, but also am I spending too much time? Because yeah, I can be like spending time with that person, but that's also not honoring the time for the person behind them.
Yep.
And that's a great thing about having Caitlin in the office is like because like the office can continue to move like if somebody needs more attention. But at the same time, it's like if somebody needs more attention because like they're in like a bad place or like their baby is super colicky or like they're having a tough day, like people will typically understand that. And Kate, like that's where your other doctors can help you out, which is really a great thing. But it's different if I'm just sitting there talking to a mom about something for way too long, like, and just yapping on about it so that
Mhm.
I can get the attention and I can get the recognition of, oh, you know everything. And so that's the thing, is like giving each person the same amount of dedicated attention and knowing that you're devoting the same amount of energy toward uh, each one of your patients. I feel like, and I would hope that all of our patients that come in and they get seen, they feel like we give them the same amount of attention each visit, but between person to person, knowing that I'm willing to take that and have that conversation with each person, and knowing that, just because I spoke to somebody else for an extra 30 seconds doesn't mean I'm going to try to push them out of the office a little bit easier, a little bit more. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about Caitlin and I this weekend. We went out to brunch, to our favorite brunch spot, and we sat in this girl's section. And she was connecting with these people who were at their table. They had finished their meal. She had just cashed out their check. And we had just sat down, and for 15 minutes, she talked to them about the college she was going to and all those things. And it made us feel frustrated because she didn't ask us, hey, like, if she would have just turned around and said, hey, I'm closing these people out, I'll be with you in just 1 second, that would have gone so far. But instead, she stood right there and she just talked and talked and talked to these people. And we were like, man, like, I'm freezing cold in this corner of the room that I'm sitting in. And I haven't been acknowledged or anything like that. It makes me feel like I'm not important. That, you talking about the English class that you're taking is more important than me in this moment.
Right.
And it's not saying like, oh, I need all of the attention, but it's like, I don't know if you even know that I'm here. Like,
Right.
I thought that you forgot about me. And we had an incident that, like, I really harped on our team with because of Mom. Like, we have a discovery call. The discovery call was at 9:45. She called at 9:51, or she called in at 9:51, like 4 or 5 minutes after her call was. And she said, hey, I just wanted to see if you guys saw my call because I was scheduled at 9:45 and you didn't, and I still haven't gotten a call, and it's 5 minutes later, and I thought that you forgot about me. And that's like an awful customer experience. And so I was like, hey, listen, like, I'm gonna let you know, like, we're gonna do your visit for free. Like, you should always be called at the right time because we respect your time, and we want you to know that we see you and we hear you and we're here for you. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's a big myth of that, like, you don't need to treat your patients well. Like, they're just there for the adjustment. Everything else is kind of gone by the wayside. The customer experience is so important.
Yeah.
And
I think too, like, I just started Never Lose a Customer Again, which
nice.
I've heard is a great book. But in the very opening of it, he talks about an experience he had with the dental office and how it was like totally changed his forever viewpoint on business. And kind of a myth that I was told was never offer like same day initial exams. And I got that from a lot of like more like pediatric, but also like more wellness based offices where like we're more pain based. And so like someone could wake up one day and be like, shit, I got to get this back pain taken care of. And they want to get it taken care of that day. Now, that's not to say like we're going to fix them that day. But again, for the type of person we're serving, the athlete, former athlete, or whoever, like professional, like respect their time. If they're like, I have an opening today, like, let me see if I can get in. But he talks about in that book how the dental office, the assistant, like moved the whole schedule around so that he can get in for like a really bad toothache, or like fractured, like chipped tooth or something. Because they're like, no, we got to see you today. Like, we don't want you to go another day with this. And so I think whether you're offering same day is still like respecting that urgency, pending your practice, right? Like, if you're more like this person's been struggling with it for 2 years, like, what's another day? I also hate that mindset where it's like, yeah, they might be struggling with it for 2 years, but they're finally ready to take that step. Like, let's start today, right? Let's start that process. So I'm curious if that was a myth you had heard.
We always try to get in as soon as possible. Now, like, we don't like allow for walk-ins unless if we have time on the schedule. Like, we've had people walk in and be like, hey, I'm looking to book an appointment, and we're like, well, we're not, like, we are open now. Like, this was way in the past, where like the schedule wasn't super full, but I would have people walk across the hall from the pediatrician being like, hey, I just got our 4th script for antibiotics and my next step is tubes. What can you do? And I'd be like, well, I don't know. Like, typically they would be like, how would you fix this? And I'd be like, well, we need to schedule an initial visit so that, I can do a good assessment and get, understand before, so I can give you sound advice. And they're like, okay, when's your next appointment? I was like, well, you're here now. I'm here now. I'm free now. Can you do now? And they're like, yeah, sure, we can do now. And they were like, wow, that's so great. Like, you got me in right away. And like, we've had moms like call in and be like, dude, my baby is bad. And we're like, you know what? We'll squeeze you in. We will find time to make it work for you. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that you should do your best. And I think that your customers and your clients or your patients or your practice members or whatever you want to call them, the people that you serve, I think they really can pick up on if you're trying your best to serve them, or like, are you working for them or are they working for you? I think they can kind of really
Mhm.
like people really get a good sense of that relationship right off the bat based off of how you serve them and how you treat them and how you cater to them, you know. And it's dependent on your
Mhm.
practice, you know, like um yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's Anchor, like, who talks about, like, in his script or something like that, and it's like, "And I'm gonna let you know, like, you have to be willing to work for me," and, like, blah, 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 and I think that just goes against a lot of the current generation's values.
Yeah, I think I think too with that point, I think another key thing is to address those expectations. Now, this wasn't necessarily like a myth or anything, but along that line of like we tell people like this isn't like a just come in get adjusted. Like one thing we're like a core value of ours is equipping and empowering individuals to live life to their fullest, which means they shouldn't be fully reliant on me in my office, right? If that's the case, then we're basically just a glorified pharmacy. Um, and so I let people know like my goal is to make it so that you're not reliant on me coming in. Like that's a big reason why we progress you down from multiple visits a week to one visit a week. Um, I don't want you fully reliant on me. Um, like so, here are some tools in your tool belt um, to get better and stay better. Um, I think that's really important too.
Well, this is
Um,
I mean, that's actually the next thing that I was gonna talk about, like, the last myth that I would say that I think a lot of people coming out of school or starting their practice or in practice in general, really hold on to. The last myth is that, people who are not chiropractors understand chiropractic. I think that's a huge myth.
yeah,
Nobody knows
no one.
what we do. And you have to understand that. I was just talking to Caitlin about this because she just hosted her mom's group and she was just talking about they went over allergies and like what are allergies from a holistic standpoint.
Mhm.
And she had like 8 slides. Like allergies, when the body comes in contact with a foreign substance, that's called an allergen. When an allergen creates inflammation, that's called a histamine response. A
Mhm.
histamine response is like it's dead. It's like supposed to isolate the allergen so that the body then can build immunity around it so that it doesn't kill you. And like Caitlin was like, "This is so basic. This is so stupid." And I was like, okay, you got to
Watch.
understand that nobody knows. It's common knowledge in our circle because everyone that we talk to
Mhm.
knows about this stuff. And then so Caitlin was like, I was like, just trust and go in there with your 6 or 8 slides and just give them the 8
Mhm.
slides. And there was like 14 or 15 moms, and every one of them, she said, was like, "Oh my god, I never thought about it in this way. I
Mhm.
never would have thought that this is how the body works. I never knew any of this stuff." And she was like, "Yeah, it really reminded me about how much we actually know about the body and how little people actually think the way that we think."
Mhm.
Because we live in just this echo chamber. This podcast, it's an echo chamber. We're echoing
Mhm.
tons of things that you're going to hear from other chiropractors and all these other things. You know, your friends, they're going to be in practice and they're going to say a lot of the same things that we're saying. And this, like, these are echo chambers, and it's a great place to be because it helps you think about certain
Mhm.
things, but it's also great to get outside perspective.
Yep.
And the biggest thing that we have to understand as chiropractors is that nobody understands what we do or values it to the degree in which it should be. And that goes for chiropractors and for your clients.
Mhm.
Um, and so you could
100%.
literally just talk about the nervous system. You could literally on repeat I mean, this is what Courtney Collett does on repeat. Say the brain is the master control system for the body. The brain is the master control system. You could say that for years
Mhm.
and you could get a huge following.
Mhm.
A huge following. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a huge myth is like you that people understand what you do or they
And I
know what
think
they're
a
about to
myth
get.
a myth too is if you tell them once, they're gonna remember.
Dude, yeah, for real. Like I was just I forget what I was talking to this one mom and they were like, "Oh, so you're telling me that like if my baby like is over like they were saying something and I was like they said something they're like, "Oh, like so you're telling me that if my nerves to my hand are blocked then my hand doesn't work." And I was like, "Yep." They're like or no, somebody said this exactly like, "You know what I was thinking of?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "It really does make sense that like if there is an interference between the brain and the body through the nervous system that like it wouldn't work." And I was like, dang. So I look back at their profile. They've been under care for 18 months.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, now it clicked. It like just clicked for them.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think too, that's why like old school, I don't know if it's old school. Hopefully if you're older and listening to this, you don't feel old school. But like a lot of practices would do like a almost mandatory health talk or like chiropractic talk where like every new patient, it was required like on your day 3 to sign up for this workshop that they would do like every week or every other week and just talk about the basics like nerve interference, blah, blah, blah. And just like continually invite people, like just keep coming, like come again, come a second time, come a third time so that you're learning that. Because I mean, it's just like going to church, you know you're a sinner, but you still got to go back to learn how you're sinning.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, there's so many different ways. Like, dude, a health talk would kill me. Like, it would be too much for me. I just couldn't do it. I would like to do them. I just don't want to. But so I mean, there's so many ways to get that out though. Email drip is great. Your social media, that's where all your social media stuff should be. Somebody told me, and I was like, man, this is a great frame. But like your social media is really just to continue to put information in front of your current clients. Right? It's not to get new clients. It's really to nurture your current clients. It's a place to stay interacted with your people. Because, I was looking, and then I went and looked at our social media, the people who like our stuff the most, the people who comment on our stuff the most, the people who share our stuff the most, they're all people who have been under care for an extended period of time. Right? And so those are the people that are going to share your stuff. Those are the people that are going to do that. And so you have to take care of your people at the core. Right? And your social media is just a way to do that. I mean, it's the same way. Like I follow Nick Bear because I use his supplements, and I use his supplements because I follow him. Like he earns my loyalty by being shredded. Like, that's the thing is like,
and on TRT.
He's not on TRT. I said that about Liver King too, but
I don't know. We don't have to rip on Nick Bear.
I've seen Nick's labs. I don't think that he's on TRT.
It's hard for me to, I don't know. He gets like 4 hours of sleep, stays in a deficit all the time. I know he works out super hard. It can't just be the greens and the reds.
You don't know if he's in a deficit or not.
He like does his like what I eat in a day, and he talks about how he's in a deficit.
See, so this is the thing though, is you can't learn about everything you see on social media.
The more I'm like, facts.
Yeah. But like you can't, like, I think that's the biggest thing though, is you never know what is actually going on in the background of social media. And so like you can't just take what people are telling you on the internet or in your practice management group or any of that stuff as gospel until you have your own experience with it. And that's a big thing, like talking about our practice management group, like with Steph's group, is she doesn't manage your practice. She says, hey, what are your goals? What are you trying to get to? And then here are some tools and resources for you to try. Right. And that's why like there is no like wealthy practitioner formula for a practice. There is none of that stuff. And that's why like everybody's practice is so different. And I really think that's why everybody really likes the community, is because nobody is pressured to operate in a certain way, this or that. I mean, there are people that take insurance. There are people that do therapies. There are people that do pediatrics. There are people that do car accidents. There are nurse practitioners and massage therapists. One of the girls that's in the wealthy practitioner that is the most active is Nikki Grebel, and she's a hairstylist.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, dude, like, I think that's where you need to find your community at, and that's where you need to really come for things is say, okay, what can I learn from other people's experiences, and how can I apply them to my situation?
I think that kind of lends to like almost the last myth I can think of is, well, chiropractic is a different type of business, so I can only really learn from people that have grown a chiropractic business.
Yeah, it's not like that at all.
Business is business, right? Like you can learn from every facet of business.
Yeah, in every business, average price per transaction, that's your OVA, right? Average recurring transaction amount, that's your PVA, like how many times are people going to buy from you?
Lifetime value is
across the board. Cost of acquisition is across the board. Retention is across the board.
Yeah.
the only chiropractic stat,
experiences across the board,
yeah,
right? It's
the
not
only
just numbers. Before someone's like, it's not just about numbers.
I'm trying to think of like what a chiropractic like specific stat would be, but it's like there's really none. Like
Like a
sales,
report of findings is a sales presentation.
yeah, right. Yeah, initial visit, that's a new customer, right? So like if I go into the car dealership and I'm like, hey man, I'm looking for a car, and the guy's like, all right, cool, and I don't buy anything, right? That's like somebody coming in for an initial visit and then I don't come back for my ROF.
Yeah.
Or then I say, hey, I'm really looking to buy this truck. Can you run me the numbers? The guy, you run the numbers, and the guy is like, hey, this is how much it's going to cost you. That's a report of findings. And if I buy, you know, that's an accepted care. If I don't, then that's a did not accept care, right? Same thing with my email list and stuff. Oh, hey, I saw your ad for this new truck. I just wanted to come and look at it, right? That's cost of acquisition. Like, I mean, if I buy 4 or 5 GMC trucks, then that's my, you know, how many times my PVA, my customer visit average. Like,
yep.
So, I mean, businesses across the board, and I think, yeah, that's probably the biggest myth is that it all works the same for people. Yeah. It's just not the same.
Facts.
Cool. So yeah, give a brief synopsis. Our biggest myths in chiropractic that we went over today is 1, you can only build your business through social media, or that social media is the best way to build your business. Myth. 2, what is it?
We had a lot.
Yeah.
A viral post is not equivalent
viral post
of
is
new
not equal
patients.
that, right? Biggest myth really is that marketing, you have to market a certain way for you to grow your business, right?
Yeah.
Second myth, biggest myth is that people understand what chiropractic is and that you don't need to educate them. And then third myth is that whatever everybody else is doing, it's going to work for you as well. And so, you know, don't get caught up in all those things. Let us know. Have people around you that can support you. If we can support you guys, let us know. Send us a DM. You guys know how to reach us. And just continue to listen to the show, because we're just going to give you this raw and real stuff. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is like we're in the thick of it right now. Like we're out of startup mode. We're in growth mode, trying to build our practices. Our lives are kind of taking off in different directions too. Family, all of that stuff. And so, I mean, the better that we build our business and the more that we dive into our practice, the better that our life will get. And thanks so much, guys, for listening to the show. It really means a lot to us.
Peace.
Bye.